Hello everyone, this is Isha for Pinkfresh Studio, and I hope you are all having a wonderful day. In today's video, I'm sharing just how versatile the Pinkfresh Studio liquid watercolors are. I'm sure many of you already have them, so I thought it would be fun to share a few different techniques using these watercolors. For my main element, I'm using the Petal Poise stamp set and coordinating die set. The Pinkfresh Studio liquid watercolors come in three sets. Jewel tones, which are rich and dark. Classics are the medium color range, and pastels are really pretty and pastel, as the name says. I'm also using the Pinkfresh watercolor paper, which is wonderfully thick and doesn't warp much, it's almost none at all. I keep these cut in different sizes. I also have a plastic palette and a jar of clean water. Now, to make my color swatches, I have made little color columns on watercolor paper using a Sharpie marker. So everything is organized neatly across all three sets. When I want to use a color, I simply check in my sheet in which box the color belongs. Easy peasy, right? All the supplies I have used in today's video are listed in the description box below, so don't forget to check them out. I was thinking on which colors to use and then decided to use the colors from the December Challenge palette. These are a beautiful mix of shades. I'm using candy apple, ballet slippers, mulberry blush, lavender, sky blue, sapphire, and sage colors. I'm squeezing them into my palette. One great thing about these liquid watercolors is that once they dry, you can reactivate them with a wet brush. So nothing goes to waste. Let's start creating our panels. So I'm taking the watercolor paper panel and put it in the MISTI. I am using a powder tool here onto the paper because we are going to heat emboss the images. And whenever we use embossing powder, this step is important so that we won't get stray powder everywhere. I ink the stamp with Versamark ink and stamp onto the watercolor paper, sprinkle white opaque embossing powder over it, and then I am heat setting it using my heat tool. Take your time and enjoy the magic of watching that embossing powder melt. The- I really love it. Then I flip the paper upside down, place it in my MISTI again, follow the same steps as before, and we have the whole panel ready. In this way, I created two white embossed panels. For the third panel, I used gold embossing powder and heat set it with my heat tool. For the panel number one, I'm going to do a soft pale wash. I wet the paper completely using the number 10 brush and apply candy apple watercolor. This is a bit darker than what I want for this particular project, so I'm going to dab it later using the kitchen towel. I then came up with lavender and ballet slippers watercolors. Since there is so much water on the paper, the colors will spread beautifully. Remember, watercolors always dry lighter, and here I want a very pale wash. For my second panel, I want some deep jewel tones. Again, I wet the watercolor paper and add a lot of candy apple color. This pigment looks intense right now, but trust me, the end result is going to be very pretty. Then I bring in lavender watercolor. I'm going full strength for a deeper shade. Again, the water which we used to wet the panel before helps everything blend seamlessly. For our last panel, which is gold embossed images, I start adding water to the embossed florals. And then I'm blending sky blue watercolor to create an ombre effect. For the rest of the panel, I have something else in mind. So I add a touch of emerald green color to the other end. Emerald green is quite intense color, so dilute it with water a little bit. You will see how I use this part later. As I said before, watercolors dry lighter, so even if the colors feel intense right now, they will settle as they dry. You can air dry these panels, which normally is my preference, and I feel those give better results. But since I need to complete the cards for the video, I'm going to heat set them. At first, the paper curls a bit, but as it heats from both the sides, it flattens again. And if your paper still curls, you can press it under a heavy book later, or you can run it through your die cutting machine. Next, start with our next technique, which is color lifting. Once everything is heat set, we'll start with the first panel. Pinkfresh liquid watercolors can be lifted with clean water, which gives a lovely bleached effect. I am applying plain water to the embossed areas using a brush. The embossing creates natural barriers, so the water stays inside the stamped lines of our florals. But here is my mistake. I left the water onto the image for too long. So the flowers lifted too much pigment and turned very bleached. I will fix that later. I didn't remove this footage, so you know we all make mistakes and they are easy to fix too. For the rest of the panel, I apply water to each flower and dab immediately. This gives a soft, subtle bleached look, not a completely washed out one. Here you see me adding light wash of red and lavender to add a bit more color to the bleached out images. Then I'm spritzing this panel with some water mixed with perfect pearls. This will give us a soft, subtle sparkle. And who doesn't love some sparkle for the holiday season? We are going to let this panel dry. This is the classic lifting technique, and it creates beautiful contrast, especially with deep background washes. Moving on to our next technique, which is controlled watercolor. We are going to use our pastel panel. This needs a bit more definition, so I'm using number 2 brush to apply pigment and blend it with clean water. I usually work with two brushes, one with pigment and one with water. So this way I'm able to blend quicker. You can use regular brushes or water brushes, but be careful. Some water brushes have strong water flow. If too much water comes out, wipe it on the kitchen towel to control it. This technique requires more control, so I slowly build layers. I'm using candy apple and lavender for the flowers, one petal at a time. I switch between the colors within the same flower to add some more interest. Just keep coloring and keep dabbing extra water as needed. For the leaves, I'm using emerald green and sage colors. I find coloring like this helps me calm down. It's good for my overthinking. I'm building the pigment slowly and enjoying the process. If you don't want to spend much time on coloring, simple flat watercolor will also give a pretty effect. With embossed image, you don't have to be a pro at watercoloring. Next, we are going to use the gold embossing panel for intense coloring. I'm using the same method as our last panel, but with a bit deeper reds, more intense candy apple watercolor. And now we have all three panels ready for card making. For this next technique, I am doing partial die cutting. If you know me, you know I love techniques. I place my die over the embossed image. I am securing it with the washi tape here, and then I'm positioning my top cutting plate so it only covers almost the first two rows of the flowers, not the entire die. Run this through the die cutting machine, and then I'm using a craft knife to trim the remaining areas and the panel pops out. So now we have a partially die cut floral panel. I also die cut the images from our detailed pastel colored panel. This gives us a lot of pieces. Next, it's time to create our cards. So for the card number one, I want quick holiday cards using this panel. Then I stamp a sentiment from Once Upon a Holiday and die cut it using the smallest oval from the nested elongated ovals dies. I also die cut one oval from the red glitter cardstock. I die cut the panel using the single stitched rectangle die. Who says we can't create holiday cards with non holiday products? It's a wonderful way to stretch our supplies, right? Here I felt the card needs some more depth and definition, and our watercolors match the ink colors perfectly, which comes to the rescue. I used candy apple ink and a half-inch brush to deepen the edges of the panel. Then I adhere the glitter oval slightly offset behind the sentiment piece. I felt the white embossed florals from the other panel will fit perfectly to enhance the sentiment and gives us a pop of color. I'm adhering the floral cluster using the 3D foam tape. To finish the card, I'm adding glitter drops. The ombre drops are my favorites because of the multicolored glitter in them. And here is the final card. The glitter and bold watercolor gives such a beautiful festive shine. Moving on to my next card, which has a soft wintry feel. Remember the emerald green panel I was to use later? I die cut the trees from it using the Holiday Express dies. Off camera, I embossed two white panels using the Evergreen Sparkle Coverplate die. I am blending Ocean Breeze ink around the edges, fading towards the center. The footage got lost, but we have plenty of videos on our channel showing how to emboss using coverplate dies. I die cut a circle using the double stitched circles dies and stamp the same sentiment in black using the detail black ink. Here you can see my circle didn't cut perfectly, but it won't show through once everything is layered. While arranging the florals, I felt the white circle needs just a bit of color, so I'm adding ballet slipper ink around the edges. I adhere the circle using the foam tape onto the panel, and then I'm tucking in the trees in the floral clusters. I cut some of the tree stems as per the height I needed. And finally, I arrange the clusters and adhering them using the liquid adhesive around the sentiment so they snuggle it and forms an open wreath. And the card is done. Very soft and very wintry. I use the second dry embossed panel using the Evergreen Sparkle Cover Plate die. For the sentiment, I used Wishing You a Beautiful Birthday from the On My Mind stamp set. The deep sapphire blue and lavender color around the images helps them pop against the lighter background. And this is how I finished the third card. Each card is using a different watercolor technique. If you would like me to explain any technique in more detail, please leave a comment below. I would be happy to include it in an upcoming video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications. See you next time. Happy crafting and bye bye.